Hello, this is Brian Hegney, instructor of Game and Interactive Media Design at High Point University. In the last video, we just made a PNG, and in this video, we are going to import it into our meme, and we will talk about saving Photoshop documents, JPEGs, PNGs, and PDFs, and what all of that means, because they're all very different types of documents. So let's go ahead. Whoops, that's not what I want you to see. So I am going to open up that PNG in here. There's a couple ways to do it. You've already seen me go to my, open up a PNG or a JPEG and, drag them into here. You've seen me do that. And that's one of my favorite ways of doing that. Now, the other way of doing that is I could say File, Place Embedded. Place Embedded. That's another way of adding an image. I'm going to do that. Click Place Embedded. And I'm going to click on that PNG. And I'm going to move it around, okay? And I'm going to double click it to accept it, or click the check box or check mark at the top of the viewport. And there we have it. Now we can always move this around if we want to. Yay. Oh, that might be good. Okay. Again, I hope I'm not making fun of these people. I really honestly did not know what to add to this image, and I'm kind of tired, and I like adding horns to people, so that's what I'm freaking doing. Okay, but here's cool. So we can make this... Oh, would this be better? I think it would be. Yeah, that's such a cool one. Okay, here's the problem, though. While it's great that this PNG comes in with transparency, there's still horns in that thing. So what I might do is, again, you've seen me do this before. I'm going to add a mask here and just paint black over the horns that I don't want. And if I ever want them back, guess what I can do? I can bring them back. Oh, and this is where it's going to be tricky. Let's zoom in here, because we want to take care of this. We want to be really careful with this. So I'm going to give myself a really soft brush, a really small brush, and then a little bigger, and then a little bigger. Really fade that in. Yes. See, I care about my horns. It's not the right, it's not the right angle, but you know what? That's gonna be okay. This one here, I need to do the same thing. I need to click here. Oops. Oops, what am my hands are not on the right keys. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. And the thing that's wrong with this is that it's not quite small enough. So what I'm going to do is hit Command T or Control T and left click and drag this corner slot. There we go. And I accidentally erased, or didn't erase, painted black here on this horn. See, if I had used the eraser tool, I would be not in good shape. And so I didn't use the eraser tools. So if I'll click on that mask, you can see I just painted a little black here. So I'm going to just paint a little more white there. There we go. See? You would have been messed up if you had used the other tool. The other thing I'm going to do is hit Command T and rotate these horns just a little bit. Make them a little bit smaller. There we go. And the other thing I'm going to do is make sure we can see her head over this, and I'm going to do that again by painting black on the mask. Whoops, painted white. There we go. Now that looks almost normal. Yeah, I mean, I care about this. And the last thing I'm going to do before we really talk about, you know, saving this as JPEG, PNG, etc., is I'm going to take out the background. And in order to do that, I'm just going to turn off everything that isn't Michaela. And I'm going to quickly select her as fast as I can. So I'm actually going, whoops, and look at I'm on the wrong background. You notice when I tried using quick select, it selects really weird things? Hey, that's because I have the horns selected. I need to select the background. Command D to deselect everything. I'm going to pause this while I select her. Okay, and that was only just a minute, I think, but I just wanted you to see that, oops, this is here selected, so I'm going to, with my quick select brush, hold down Alt to deselect from something, okay? And you remember how we isolate our subject that we have selected. If I were to click the mask tool with with the layer 0 selected, it's really going to take out all of the people in the back. Why would I do that? I'm going to show you why I would do that. And it is because what if we want the background to just be really funky? I created a new layer. I'm placing this new layer underneath Michaela's layer. I'm going to call it background. And maybe I want to create a really cool background that's made up of a really nice looking blue that is a slightly different shade of blue. And I'm going to go ahead and use a gradient tool, and I'm going to use polar gradient or radial gradient. Yep, radial. And I'm going to left click and drag from the center outward. Whenever you create a gradient, it just makes a gradient of the foreground and background colors by default. I don't like that. I'm going to switch these, make the foreground a lighter blue color. And I'm going to, the longer you drag the line with your gradient, the more it gradiates. And the shorter you drag it, the more you'll get like a little circle. See that? That's how that works. Here we go. So maybe I want to do something like that. All right. This is setting me up to talk about PSDs, PDFs, PNGs, and JPEGs. So I might want this to be a JPEG. If I want to send this out to the world, I am going to save this as a JPEG so I can upload it to Facebook, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to say File. But I'm not going to save, before I save it as a JPEG, oh my gosh, I really need to save this as a PSD. So I'm going to call this Nancy Pelosi Not Impressed. I'm going to go ahead and call it O2 because it is pretty different from the original, and I just want to make sure I can get back. I didn't delete anything, but you never know. Okay, so we've got this. It's a PSD. I cannot upload this to my blog, though. And let's say I spent so much time on this, I don't want any Joe Schmo coming around and saying, you know what? I'm gonna put them in, what's a funny location? Funny location. Let's just look up. I'm gonna put them in, I don't know, this castle place. That's not funny at all. But someone could take all of my Photoshop work and, like, just place a background. Their own background. And I don't want that. Right? That's not my work. And so I don't want anyone just to go ahead and do that by opening up my PSD and adding a layer. So I'm going to save this as a PSD, yes. But when it's ready to share with the world, I'm going to save it as a JPEG. Now JPEG is going to save it as a copy, I guess is what it says. It's Nancy Pelosi's not impressed 02 JPEG. When I save that, it asks me to save it as a low or a large file. Go ahead and save it as a large file. Say OK. When we open that back up, this keeps it as a PSD, by the way, so you just saved out a JPEG as a copy. You can open that back up. Here's what it is. This is now, it doesn't look like this PSD icon. It is this one. You can see it in your browser. If you open it up, look at it has no layers. If you wanted to de-blur Nancy Pelosi, you could not do it. If you wanted to bring back the N and the A and the other N behind her head, you couldn't do it. If you wanted to take away these horns, you couldn't, you couldn't do it. So that's why we keep our work as a Photoshop document, so that I could just say, hey, let me take away those horns, anything you want. I could go to Nancy and turn off blur, and there she's perfectly wonderful now. So that's a JPEG, and this is going to be uploadable to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Now the other thing, what if I want to send this to my boss? Or what if I want to make this available to like anyone to put their own background on? And I still want to keep all of my work. Well, then I might turn the background off. And I might save this as a PNG. We already saved the horns as a PNG, but now I'm saving Nancy Pelosi is not impressed as a PNG. Just go ahead and choose any of these. I choose smallest file. And now let's open up that PNG. Open PNG. If you open up the PNG, it is still compressed to one layer. I still cannot de-blur Nancy. I still cannot remove these horns. There's not a lot I can do, but there's something cool I can do. I can go to my own, I don't know, background. I could say like Mars. I can get a landscape of Mars. Copy that image. Come to my PNG. Paste that. Drag it below here. And now, Nancy Pelosi and Michaela Maroney are on the surface of Mars, right? That's something we can do. And that's because this is a PNG that has transparencies. Now, just for fun, let's say, what if this background were closed and you said, hey, let's save it as a JPEG. If I were to save that as a JPEG, even though the background is turned off, yeah. Oops, it's currently open, so let me close this really quickly. There we go. Save it as a JPEG, yes. What's going to happen is JPEGs cannot have transparency, so it's going to fill that in with some kind of color, whether you like it or not. You can choose what color you want to fill it in with, but every pixel is going to have a color associated with it. And that's why we choose PNGs versus JPEGs. The last one is PDF, and that's if we want to send this to our printer to print, in which case they might want a PDF. I could save as. I'm going to select Photoshop PDF. I know you're here somewhere. Photoshop PDF. Now you do have the option to save to uncheck layers. And if you're going to save it as a PDF, you want it to be a portable document file. So unchecking layers is going to make it much smaller. Just say OK. This little window pops up, and I'm just going to save PDF. And when you do that, I can now open that PDF. It's a portable document file. It should be pretty small. And it's a single layer. You cannot move any of these things around. Okay, I hope you learned a lot about JPEGs and PNGs and when to use them. Bye-bye.